Hello guys, and welcome to the latest MSC Performance Podcast. Really hope you've enjoyed our latest episodes. We're obviously trying to get into a bit more rhythm with it now, and we're really enjoying putting some content out for you guys. I hope you're enjoying them. Today, I'm very excited to be joined by the head of the MSC Performance Sports Injury Clinic, Mr. Max Hartman. Max has been giving me a little bit of stick because he's not been on our last couple of podcasts, and he's been moaning saying I haven't invited him on, but the truth is he's too clever for us all. So
I just didn't get the invite. I assume he got lost in the post.
Yeah, that's it. You know what the post is like at the moment, mate. How are you?
Yeah, all good, mate. I think, like I said, just kind of in the same boat as everyone else at the moment, trying to just crack on and get some sort of routine. But just very strange times, isn't it, for everyone?
Indeed, mate. Indeed. So with today's podcast, this is actually a topic that Max thought of, and has got some really good ideas. We've already had a sort of brief discussion about it, and we thought, we'll put it into a podcast. So with the title of today's podcast is what you can achieve in a year of fitness. Do you want to expand on that a little bit more, Max, and the thinking behind that?
Yeah, so I think we've had a few discussions, and it goes back to when the first lockdown kicked in March. Everything was kind of announced in these 3-week blocks.
Yeah.
And it kind of got me thinking that over the course of 3 weeks, when aside from the initial sort of panic and not knowing it was going to end up being like a kind of year-long thing, or best part of a year now, I kind of thought, okay, well, it's shit. Gyms are shut, and the whole world's kind of going hell in a handbasket, and we don't know where we're going. But I thought, in the grand scheme of things, I thought for my clients, for the health of people up and down the country, I thought gyms are closed for 3 weeks. It's not the worst thing in the world. Like we've had loads of conversations over the years about the idea of kind of these 4 and 6 week transformations you can do. The kind of the new year, new me kind of crowd where you see people fly at the gym in January and they're gone by February, basically. And I thought, we kind of knock people sometimes, or kind of we know that a 4-week fitness kick isn't necessarily the way to go. That's not where you see results. You're not going to see massive wholesale change in your long-term health markers, in your appearance and your body fat and muscle mass over the course of 4 weeks. So the gyms are shut for 3 weeks. I think it's cool. We can take that on the chin. Whereas now I'm kind of turning around and thinking, especially when you look at it on a national scale and even a worldwide scale, imagine for the health of the entire country what could have been done, and especially on an individual level, like what you can achieve over the course of 9 and effectively 12 months. If we're in lockdown till the end of March now, if someone had started going to the gym in March, someone who would otherwise been completely kind of not really putting focus on their fitness, on their nutrition, on their sleep, that kind of stuff, think how much progress someone could have made over the course of a year. And that idea of the kind of 3 weeks of downside now versus the possibility of 12 months of upside. It just kind of got me thinking. I know we've been sharing some stuff from some BBC News articles, and of course everyone's kind of seen some stuff that Nick Whitcomb's been putting out up in Liverpool, really kind of flying the flag for gyms and health and fitness up and down the country. So just been thinking about that a lot the last couple of weeks. Out of all of us coaches at the gym, I think Josh is the one who, on his social media, he really talks about this idea of forming habits and around getting daily step counting, around tracking macronutrients, around kind of weighing your food, around good healthy sleep habits. And these are the kind of things that people can and should still be doing over the course of a year. And they're things that they add up to be a huge part of your life and a huge part of determining whether or not you are objectively, or kind of in broad strokes, whether you are fit and healthy. It's not just a question of the gym. That being said, 9 months of lifting weights and doing things like Metcon, 9 months of doing things like Barbell Club, you can see ridiculous changes. You can see unbelievable changes in people, how they look, how they feel, how they function on a day-to-day basis. And like I say, you're really starting to get into the realms now of having had so long with gyms being closed and having had so long with gyms being kind of off limits for a lot of people. yeah, it's just starting to get to the point where you really got to think about what could have been, basically.
You can certainly when you do see people, you can certainly see who's sort of made the most out of the last 9 to 12 months, and those who have slipped off, can't you?
Yeah, and I know on the couple of occasions that we've been for our state sanctioned daily exercise, outdoor walk and coffee, as I'm sure a lot of people around this area have been doing for the last few months. We've spoken about it a lot. We can't necessarily get in the gym and train with the frequency that we used to. We can't necessarily go and behave like normal. But I'm averaging at times between myself and Claire and just from being out and about and trying to walk where possible. Sometimes if you're averaging like 15, 20, 25,000 steps a day, I feel tired. It's a lot of work to be done. But like cumulatively over the course of the year, like the amount of good that does for you, it's massive. And I think we spoke, I think pre-COVID, I would have been someone to kind of knock Joe Wicks a little bit because, as someone who comes from a very academic standpoint around coaching, around exercise, it's very easy to look at a lot of what he's done in the past around, like, whether it's his training based stuff or whether it's his nutrition stuff. There's faults you can pick, I'm sure. He's done a huge amount of good for a massive amount of people throughout lockdown and throughout COVID, so fair play to him. But I think a lot of people would in the past would they want to start health and fitness and whatnot, and they'll go and start jumping around the living room doing interval training, loads of plyometrics, and we know that actually that's not the starting point for a lot of people. If you're trying to get fit and healthy, don't worry about intervals, don't worry about going and doing 30 on 30 offs for half an hour in your living room jumping up and down. Go out and walk more. What you get,
consistency, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that, and it's I always say to a lot of my clients, people should be kind of, to begin with, worried about trying to do more at a lower level. So again, like, people go straight in on this interval training when actually it's because they've seen an influencer do it online, and it's just so unsuitable for them. It's just nowhere near what people should be doing. And people kind of doing Joe Wick stuff. Again, I don't want to use Joe Wick as an example anymore because I think my opinion has changed since he started doing kids P lessons. My opinion of him has changed a lot. They'll see an influencer doing a HIIT workout. They'll do it 3 or 4 times a week, and then sitting on their ass for the 23.5 hours a day, and they wonder why they're not getting anywhere. And it's because they've just seen these HIIT workouts, assume that it's something that's really, really good for them. Assume that because they're pouring with sweat and their legs are killing them at the end of it, that it's moving them forwards. But like I say, I mean, if we frame this purely on the idea of like body composition and weight loss or weight gain, everyone's kind of heard this by now. People like James Smith simplifying it as calories in, calories out. You eat too much and you don't move enough, you're going to gain weight. If you move and burn more calories than you eat, you're going to lose weight. People don't realize that in these kind of half-hour HIIT workouts, it's such a small amount of time and it's such a small amount of calories burned. Like, your potential to burn calories in a HIIT session or in an interval training session is still so low compared to if you're just someone that leads an active lifestyle and you're on your feet for 20,000 steps a day, which is what, a good couple of hours of walking.
I think it's context, isn't it? And as it always is, and I completely agree with what you're saying there. If you take a HIIT workout on its own, if it's structured and done with simple movements and getting the heart rate up, then it's a fantastic thing to do. But the context is, it's probably not a fantastic thing to do for a complete beginner. Whereas, like you say, rather than having a blast for 30 minutes, whether it's a insanity workout or a Joe Wicks or doing a Metcon somewhere, with no base at all, going and destroying yourself, not being able to walk for 2 or 3 days, and your activity levels are rock bottom, and then you're hoping to do that workout again in a few days. It's like, actually, you just calm down a little bit. You're actually better off reducing the intensity and volume of your exercise and looking for a lower level but more consistency.
Yeah, exactly. And And again, I think it's the kind of the toss up between whether you're just trying to train. Am I back?
Yeah.
Can you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's a kind of it's a toss up of trying to find the consistency of, you know, actually training and kind of actually just moving enough and having what would be called an active lifestyle. Again, like if you're someone that gets to the weekend and you just lie in bed till 12 o'clock Saturday and Sunday, and then roll out of bed, make breakfast and sit and eat on the sofa and you're there till 5 o'clock, which is, again, like if people are doing that nowadays, I can't really blame them because there's not a huge amount else to do. But if you're doing that, then your HIIT session 3 times a week is kind of pissing in the wind.
Yes.
Because it's like it's such a small amount of movement in the grand scheme of things over the course of 24 hours or over the course of 7 days. And again, when you extrapolate that over the course of the last 9 months, it's such a small amount of movement. And again, if we bring everything back, again, I kind of in the most simple terms, because for most people it is a question of kind of just being healthier and looking better. And again, for most people, to be healthier, it's to have less body fat, and for most people to look better, it's to have less body fat and have more muscle. We come back to this idea of calories in, calories out, and really, like a HIIT workout is such a kind of a lot of the times it's such an inefficient way of achieving that if you don't have these kind of basics in place. Like if you don't have an active lifestyle, if you don't have a healthy lifestyle from a movement and a nutrition perspective, and then when you put in things like sleep and stress on top of that as well, again, like it's a really nice kind of interval training, or just again like the Metcon stuff when you have the more aerobic side of things. It's a great form of exercise to do, but it's kind of an adjunct. I know we both got stuck into that BBC article the other day, didn't it? There was one sort of saying, "Oh, no one's going to need to go back to the gym." This guy hated it because he used to get bullied by a personal trainer, and I've got an issue with that in itself. But now he's doing 20,000 steps a day and he's lost loads of weight. So that's great, but the two aren't mutually exclusive. It's not a question of, right, you're going to go out and walk or you're going to train in the gym. It's a completely the wrong way of looking at it, I think. And then I think, especially when you start looking at the idea of strength training, that in itself, that walking or Peloton and whatnot, it's not an alternative to strength training. It's something that kind of needs to go alongside it.
It was a really sloppy and lazy bit of journalism, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like you say, it's like, you know, so it's the same thing we always see, you know, in when people are talking about exercise, health, you know, it's always all in with one, and you know, there's no context, there's no balance. So it's like, you know, the article was clearly like, right, let's, you know, people are enjoying moving, you know, outside and doing this at home and stuff, and that's brilliant. That's what we want. That's what. You know, it was taken way too far because it was bastardizing, you know, gyms, like, you know, just out to be the most evil place in the world. And as you say, you know, it's a balance of, you know, we might go into this in a bit more detail, I'm not sure, but like the benefits of doing, you know, a couple of strength training sessions in the week during the gym, or a couple of higher intensity metcons, but balancing that with, you know, like you say, that's an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours a week. It's 24 hours in a day. You know, over the course of the week, there's a lot of hours. So you could be having the best workouts in the world for 2 or 3 hours, but if you're not moving, albeit, you know, at a lower intensity, and you know, doing your walking, doing your lower, you know, aerobic base activities outside the gym, then you know, like I say, you no better way to say it than you are pissing into the wind, really. So. Yeah, I don't want to go into that article too much, but that was taken way too too far. It was poorly written, but again, the balance lies in the middle. And just going sort of back a couple of minutes there to what you're talking about as well. I think you've got to earn the right. You've got to earn the right for those higher intensity sessions.
Yeah.
You've got, you know, for example, you know, using MSC as an example, we'll have our sort of couple of high intensity sessions a week. We'll have more of the aerobic based metcon, and obviously there's a massive emphasis on the barbell club and strength training as well, as your non-negotiable almost, is get your strength working. but you've got to earn the right for that. And as you say, rather than saying, right, okay, I've seen this insanity, I've seen this, Joe Wicks thing or whatever it is, and it's like, 20 minutes high intensity and you're gonna, get shredded or whatever. It's like, it's 20 minutes or half an hour, or, even if it's an hour,
Yeah.
like that's nothing. And for the basics of what most people are after, you swap that out for 5, 6, 7 days a week of
Walking.
consistency and walking, and when gyms are open, hitting your 2 or 3 strength sessions a week, and then accompanying that with lower intensity work.
And I think that's where, again, like going back to the BBC article and then kind of leading on from what you've just been saying, where people make the mistake is right, okay, I want to get fit, I want to lose weight, I want to get rid of the Christmas fluff, whatever it might be, which again is fair enough. But people say, I'm going to do it by running, or I'm going to do it by lifting weights, or I'm just going to try and get my steps in. Whereas in reality, I think, like I say, we've got all these options. You got all these options of, okay, whether you want to do spin classes, whether you want to just focus on your steps, whether you want to run. But strength training, I think, just kind of sits outside of that category because it sets the foundation that allows you to tolerate these things.
Yeah.
And I think the benefit for strength training from a body composition perspective, from a health perspective, is much more of a chronic thing. So, again, we go back to this idea of calories in, calories out. When you run, the act of running burns calories. When you do a HIIT class or a Metcon, the act of doing that class burns calories.
Yeah.
Whereas again, if you're just weak to start with, if you don't have a good strength training base, your ability to tolerate these things and therefore your ability to burn a lot of calories over a long period of time is limited, because you either just get very fatigued and you actually can't work hard in the sessions, or you break after a week or after 2 weeks, or however long you manage to roll the dice for before getting some sort of injury that derails your progress. So it's much more of a kind of intangible when you're looking at body composition improvements. Plus, like, the act of building muscle takes time. So you're not getting a huge amount of fat loss directly from lifting weights, but over time, if you put on 10 kilos of muscle, which again for a complete beginner over the course of 9 months, as we're talking about, is not unheard of. Yeah. If you just start going to the gym 9 months, you suddenly go from eating no protein whatsoever, or eating 50, 60 grams a day, to tracking your protein, thinking, right, okay, I want 1.4, 1.8 grams of protein per kilo of body weight. Suddenly you start looking after your protein intake. Suddenly you start weight training 2-3 times a week. 10 kilos of muscle over the course of 9 months is not unheard of. And again, like from a health standpoint and from an aesthetic standpoint, that's a serious change. That's a serious change. So like, but the strength training is not immediately noticeable. Like, you're not going to look at your calories over the course of a day and say, well, great, I burned 3,000 calories and 2,500 of those was from that 40-minute weight session I did. It's just not going to happen like that. So it kind of it sits outside of people's ideas of how they're going to get in shape, but it's probably the most important building block of that process.
Yeah, I agree 100% there. I think people don't realise that, and they don't realise the benefits of doing strength work. And like you say, it's like people are thinking like in the moment. Okay, so how many calories am I burning during that half an hour run? How many calories am I burning during that walk? How many calories am I burning during that weight training session? Whereas I think we need to look at more. Go on.
I was just going to say, people kind of immediately come out of the session and they think, well, that was really good because I'm really tired.
Yes.
Or I assume I'm losing weight because that really hurt. Whereas actually, like, we just know it's not the case.
Yeah. I think like it's one of the biggest and hardest things is to probably get across to people in the general pop in regards to strength training, isn't it? And is, it's not just about going in and hitting specific numbers on a deadlift. It's not about becoming a powerlifter necessarily or a bodybuilder, but like the advantages of strength training for your everyday man who likes to go out for a run and go out for a walk, or whatever, in terms of like we could talk all day, but like the benefits and carryover from doing that to your ability to
everything else.
Yeah, everything else. Whether
and
your marathon runner, whether that's your couch to 5K guy, your weekend warriors, whatever it is. But I just think it's an area that we've just got to keep pushing, is the benefits of doing some good, honest strength work a couple times a week, and the benefits, and the carryover to the other work is just just so big and so undervalued and unknown, I think, for the general.
Exactly that. And like I said, I think a lot of time people just don't grasp why it is that you would do strength training. Again, they see it as an alternative to running, or they see it as an alternative to doing spin classes. But in reality, like I say, it's what sets the foundation for you to allow to do so much of that. Again, like one of the things that me and you, one of the things that me and you were talking about was, now that we're kind of, you're not allowed to drive anywhere to exercise, it'd be great if we could drive up to Licky Hills, or if we go up to Clent or Malverns or whatnot. Obviously, living in smack bang in the centre of town, there's no massive green open spaces for us. But like, we think nothing of it. I was just saying to go at the weekend, we think nothing of it to just go out, get up in the morning and go for a walk and end up in Cannon Hill Park or Worley Woods, which is miles away.
Yeah.
But in reality, we've obviously kind of built up to doing that kind of walking over the last number of years. Like if we were very unfit to start off with, that's quite a long way. But to actually be able to accumulate enough, if we're talking about just walking, if we're talking about running or cycling, if you're someone that wants to go out and cycle for 100 miles at a time, you've got to spend a certain amount of time walking or running to build up to that. Which is kind of, that's just kind of the logical approach. Anyone knows that. Okay, if you want to run a marathon, it takes a certain amount of running. You've got to spend a certain amount of hours just plodding away to get to the point where you're fit enough to run a marathon. But if you're not very strong in the first place, if you don't have a good base of strength training, your chances of accumulating the required amount of running or walking to achieve your goal, whether it's running a marathon or whether it's walking to Cannon Park, your chances are slim.
Yeah.
The better the kind of strength base that you've got, the better the kind of foundation in strength training that you've got, the more chance that actually, if you decide you want to do a 20-mile run or you want to do a 3-hour bike ride, you're going to be able to tolerate the training required to get there.
It always comes back to strength training, doesn't it? I mean, whatever the activity, whether it's whether it's a 500-meter walk, or it's running a marathon, or it's cycling around Cannon Hill Park, or whatever it is, has your body got the ability and the strength to absorb those forces? That's the key, isn't it? And again, this kind of relates back to what we were talking about earlier. You're getting off the couch after doing nothing for a year or 5 years or 10 years, and you're jumping on an insanity program, or you're jumping on a high intensity class, and you're jumping around and 5 stone overweight, and you've not moved for ages. You haven't earned the right to go in and do that level of intensity. It's you haven't got the strength to be able to, you haven't got the joint strength and the muscular strength to absorb those forces that you're about to undertake, and therefore you're going to break down. Even if it's not an injury, the fatigue levels are going to be so high that your weekly activity levels and consistency is going to drop off. It's going to become too hard. It's going to become demotivating. So yeah, I guess where I'm going with this is, like, you've got to understand where you're at and probably look at a lower intensity but a more frequent and consistent level of exercise. You've got to know where that is, and then you've got to build up the right to do those things both by doing those activities, but also getting stronger. So if it is, if you are going to go and run, if you're doing, if you sat on the couch all year and you want to go and do a 5K, going straight into that, you've not got the aerobic foundation, you haven't got the skill of running, and you haven't got the tolerance of running because you haven't been doing the skill, but you also haven't got you also haven't got the strength base to
exactly.
So it's identifying where you're at, isn't it, and earning those rights, I think.
Exactly that, but like I think we both kind of framed it in the kind of the performance standpoint, so to speak. People that want to run a marathon, or people, like I say, want to get off the couch and run a 5K. To run a 5K, you might have to accumulate 6 weeks worth of training. If you don't have a strength base, you're not going to be able to tolerate those 6 weeks. If you want to run a marathon, again, it's 12 or it's 18 weeks. You're not going to be able to tolerate 18 weeks worth of running. So you need the strength base in there. But if you frame it purely from a body composition perspective as well, and you go around the other way, it might be that for someone to reach their goal body weight or their goal body fat percentage, they need to add in 3,000 calories. I mean, that's just a number I plucked out of the air. 3,000 calories a week worth of exercise. To start, they might be cutting down the amount of food they eat and they want to up the exercise, but they might really have to seriously think about adding an extra 3,000 calories a week of exercise in, which again is fine. But if you can't tolerate that, if you cannot tolerate going and doing, again, 15,000 steps a day, if you can't tolerate running once or twice a week, or if your chosen pursuit for getting in better shape after Christmas is doing interval sessions or doing a Peloton class, if you can't tolerate that volume of exercise, then you're not going to burn enough calories to get into the kind of shape that you want. So we know that like nutrition is the bigger half of that equation, should we say, and how much you eat or choose not to eat, we should say, is probably the biggest deciding factor for most people. You can't, as the old saying goes, like, abs are made in the kitchen, or you can't out-train a bad diet, however you want to come at it. But like if you want to do a certain amount of calories worth of exercise in a week, again, surprise, surprise, we'll come back to the same thing. The thing that allows you to tolerate that is your strength base. So yeah, I think we're both on the same side of the fence on this one.
Absolutely, yeah. Where I don't want to get with the nature of this podcast and who we're aiming at, I don't want to get too deep into the science of strength training, really. But if you're someone now who has probably not made the most of the last 9 months or 12 months, if you're watching this and thinking, right, okay, like something's hit home, and you're thinking, right, okay, I need to move more, I need to lose some weight, I'm in poor shape. Where would you start with that person now, do you think?
But again, I think from a lifestyle perspective, you've got to break it down into a few different things. You look at, again, like we said, kind of the daily activity. You then look at food intake, and then you look at kind of sleep and stress, which I suppose you could almost group into one thing. So lifestyle wise, or kind of daily activity, like we said, it's a question of just moving more, whether that's getting a standing desk, whether that's starting to pay focus on a step count. That's the biggest thing. Move more and find a way to quantify it. From a food perspective, there's probably never been a better opportunity to get into the habit of tracking calories. Probably never been a better opportunity. Can't get my words up. There's probably never been a better opportunity to start really paying focus to how you prep your food, how you can kind of get the right amount of food in a day, whether you're just looking at calories, whether you're looking at calories and protein, or you want to break it down to calories, protein, fats, carbs, whatever. But again, starting to just have a look at these aspects are the big building blocks. And then on top of that, like sleep, are you getting 8 hours a night, or are you someone that's on furlough and you've just got into the habit of going to bed at 2 a.m, getting up at noon? These are the biggest things. So these are huge factors that are going to make up, as we've discussed over the last however long we're on here. They make up a massive part of the equation of this kind of idea of calories in, calories out. And then from an actual kind of a structural perspective, trying to get to the point where you can get 2 to 3 strength training sessions in a week.
Yeah.
And again, we kind of, the rule of thumb I generally follow, I don't know what your thoughts on this are. You know, people generally think, right, okay, I'm going to start going to the gym, so it's a body part split. I'm going to go and do chest day, I'm going to go and do back day, I'm going to go and do arm day. But I think for me, the rule of thumb is the less experience you have at strength training, the more of your body you can work in any one given day. So if you're a complete beginner, whole body 2-3 times a week. As soon as you start getting a little bit more experience and you're struggling to progress or you're hitting a plateau, instead of doing full body 2-3 times a week, alternate upper body one day, lower body the next day, or one session, alternate between sessions, upper body, lower body, upper body, lower body. But again, like just going from full body to upper lower split, that's like for most people, that's like a 3 or 4 year process. To the point where you actually need to get to that point, and then you start looking at the idea of like push pull legs, and then eventually when you're 10 years in and you're a pro bodybuilder, you can start doing arm day and leg day because you need that much time to focus on one body part. But you know, it's I think people kind of historically have always associated getting into health and fitness as being this massive undertaking. Well, if I've got chest, back, legs, shoulders, arms, and then core and cardio, that's like 7 or 8 gym sessions a week.
Twice a week.
People assume that. Well, yeah, exactly. People kind of assume that. Well, okay, well that's how you go to the gym. That's what a gym session should look like. Therefore, the only way I'm getting in shape is if I'm in the gym every day, if not twice a day. There's not enough time in the week. Let's do it next year. And people see it as this massive thing, whereas in reality, like I said, right, okay, if you want to start looking after your health and fitness, it starts at home. It starts with sleeping more. It starts with actually walking on your lunch break instead of staying at home and watching half an hour of Netflix or whatnot. As people that work in a gym, we sound like we're telling people, no, don't come to the gym, don't come. But you know, it's a good start. And then the thing that kind of should then be like the linchpin that holds all that together and allows you to tolerate your walk and allows you to tolerate whatever kind of exercise you want, is getting in the gym 2-3 times a week and really just working on your structure, your form, your function with strength training.
Yeah, it's I mean, if you're in that position right now and you're watching this and you are sedentary and everything like that, I think, you know, what a big thing of what we're taking from this is, you know, don't wait until we're open. Get moving now. Start to build certain bases. Even if you're, you know, unsure about how to do strength training or anything like that, you haven't got any kit or whatever it is, you know, get out and start walking. Start building habits and building that foundation. As you say, I mean, like, go back, you know, a few times we've used it today, the analogy of pissing into the wind, but you're doing, you know, if you're doing that one hit session a week, but you haven't got the basics of, you know, sleeping well, drinking enough water, you know, at least semi-monitoring your food.
Yeah.
And you're going to struggle. And it just, I think the biggest thing we're taking from this is like, it again comes down to consistency in the day to day, in the micro, if you like, and then also in the macro, a year, 2 years, 5 years of being consistent. You know, you look at, you know, we jump from that sedentary guy to a top level rugby player or a top level power lifter or a top level weightlifter. What's the one thing you notice with all those guys is consistency. Never missing a session, you know, being organized, doing the basics well. And we're not saying that, you know, your everyday man needs to be at those levels or even strive for those levels, but using that as an example and building towards that, you know, it's exactly the same. You take your low level guys on, or you guys who, you know, not much experience or just want to lose weight. The ones who get results are the consistent and steady guys. The ones who get the results at the top level of strength sports or, endurance sports, good runners or anything like that, is consistency. It's not blowing yourself out for a day or 2 weeks or 4 weeks. It's finding a steady level of, achievable progressive overload and building from there. And it's nutrition as well. I mean, we could go on all day about this, but it's never we know that quick fixes don't work, that your quick diet fads don't work. The guys who are good body composition, who are healthy, it's a long-term process. It's a consistent process. I think that's the same. Strength work, with running, with diet, and it's the same at whatever level you're at. It's consistent.
Exactly that. Like it's probably the best example, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and I hate myself for saying it, but like Luke's probably one of the best examples of that.
I thought about his name, but he's got to be careful. He's on about this one. He's on about cutting out a cardboard statue of himself, of him like celebrating after a lift. I think and putting it in the gym, and I think he was being genuine.
I wouldn't put it past him, but again, like credit where credit's due. He's a strong guy, objectively speaking. He's very strong, and he's won medals and competitions for being very strong. It helps that he's under 5 foot, but in the kind of going on four or so years I've been at MSC,
so
I don't think I've ever seen him come to work and not have 2 meals with him. He's always he doesn't miss a meal. He doesn't miss a training session. He everything is meticulously planned. But then when you actually watch him train, so much of what he does is 7 out of 10 difficulty. You'd think, or people. Well, again, we obviously kind of understand the process, but so many people will come into the gym and think you must have to train so hard to lift that kind of weight and to look like that. But actually, it's a question. So much of his training is done at 6 and 7 out of 10 RPE. But it's like I say, he doesn't miss a session, he doesn't miss a meal. But it's like I say, it's not necessarily just consistency in doing those things over time. It's consistency in lifestyle, isn't it? Like when he does go out and have a drink, it can be spectacular. But he doesn't drink in the week generally that I know of. I say he's got his nutrition, he's got his daily activity on point, he's got his training very consistent, he's got his sleep pattern nailed, mainly because he doesn't do any work. But he's got his all of these things are lined up, and they all build on each other, and they all facilitate this kind of healthy lifestyle that underpins his performance and underpins his strength training, and ultimately the results are he's in good nick, he's healthy. For the most part, he's not injured, and he feels good. And when he wants to go out the weekend and go on a 10-mile hike, he can do it. Because his body can tolerate it. And I think that's the nth degree. That's kind of where you see, all of this, 5 or however long, I don't know how long you've been training with him, known him since the Bantine's days, but you're talking about 5 to 10 years of consistency in all aspects. But that's not valued nowadays. That's not valued nowadays. It's get fit quick, 8-week transformation packages.
We'll come back to that in a second in terms of the quick fixes and the longevity, and is there anything we can do to fix that? But just to reiterate the point, and that's an example of a top level powerlifter. But and it's absolutely true. I mean, in probably 10 years I've known him now, I've never known him to miss a session, not one, not once.
No.
And that doesn't mean that you at home have to go and do the 4 sessions or 5 sessions a week, but you have to pick something that's manageable. You might not be looking to be a top level powerlifter, but you need to pick something that's manageable that you can pick over a period of time. Probably the other guy who is at that level of consistency is my best pal back home, Matty Clark, who is an absolute nose for. He'll tick off. He's literally got a calendar. He'll tick off. There's 4 a week. Without fail, 4 a week. a bit of extra stuff in between, and he's got his Excel sheet, and he'll tick them off, and he'll send them to me, 6 months, a year, and he's like, he's had in the last couple of years, he's had a kid, he's got another one on the way, never missed a session. Probably the only other person that I know is at that level of consistency, and because of it, retired from rugby now, but in great shape, massively healthy, strong, fit, athletic. It's a great example of, again, someone who's not chasing medals, but chasing to be, the best he can be. It doesn't matter what level or what sport you're in, it's finding that that level that is achievable and
sustainable.
Sustainable is the word I was looking for. Yeah, sustainable. So whether that's getting your guy off the couch, let's say gyms are open, and you say, right, you're going to come in and do 2 sessions a week. Is that achievable? Yeah. And then after a few months, you might say, right, what about 3? What about 4? But you're much better off doing that and hitting them than saying, right, I'm going to do 7 days a week for 28 days. And I'm going to get ripped and all this kind of stuff. It's not sustainable. It's the same with food. Right, I'm not going to eat any shit for 6 weeks or 8 weeks. It's like, well, you can do that, and like,
why don't you just learn how to factor eating shit food into the day-to-day in a way that is sustainable and still moves you towards where you want to be?
What you find with that is anyone who's gone on stage and done bodybuilding, so they've taken that to the absolute extreme. I don't know anyone who's done that and then not come off it and eaten absolute shit for the next few weeks or month or two, and that's not that. And any top bodybuilder who's honest enough will say that's not the healthiest way to live. But yeah, going back to that, like the Matty, the Luke examples, is like consistency, and like you say, it's like I can't remember Luke ever missing a rep. And I'm sure there are occasions, but probably
the one squat that we'll never forget at the in-house comp, the knee sleeve incident.
Yeah. 20 minutes to put the knee sleeves on, was that the one?
Yeah, shouting, screaming, waiting, everyone standing around. Oh, this is awkward, isn't it? Waiting for him to get it on, and then he misses it.
Yeah, that's it. They never remember
Fantastic,
the ones. They only remember the ones you miss.
Exactly.
So great example. Longevity, sustainability, longevity. So rolls in one into another, and lower intensities but manageable to begin with. Earn right for your metcons, earn you right for your 5Ks, earn the right for your marathons, earn you right for your 100 kilo or your 200 kilo deadlifts. So how do we, this might be an impossible question to answer, how do we get that across to people? Like, to say, right, is there a way we can get that across to say long term over short term? Let's be proactive rather than reactive. Let's not wait until we go to the doctors when we're 39 and we've got heart failure or a heart issue, and then be reactive and think, fuck, I've got to get into it. Like, how can we not wait until it's essential to do it, panic, do it 100%, drop off? How do we, it's got to be a lifestyle, hasn't it? It doesn't have to be
and it's
lifestyle or a Luke or a Matty Clark lifestyle or anything like that. But it's, again, longevity and consistency, both in training, nutrition, and everything you do.
It's hard to get that across, isn't it? Because I think was human nature to just kind of want a quick fix and to want a magic pill and say, right, okay, well, this 8 weeks will sort out, your fitness the rest of your life or whatnot. But it's hard, like, especially when people come to the gym and they have this, right, okay, I want to get in shape, I want to join up, I want to smash everything, I'm going to do a class every day. And actually they come to the gym wanting to do a shed load of work and to work as hard as possible. And you're the one that's in theory meant to be showing them how to do it, and you're telling them to work less. And it's hard when you kind of, you're having to really emphasize, okay, well, actually, it's not a question of just doing a class 3 times a week. It's not a question of just taking a certain protein shake. It's a question of, kind of making this a priority in all aspects. But also as well, I think it's trying to reassure people that, look, although we're trying to say, although we've just kind of spent a load of time saying, about getting nutrition in order and doing it for 5 years, not just 5 weeks, training in order, doing it twice a week for 5 years, not just for 5 weeks. It's realizing that actually, although we've kind of got these big sweeping categories of kind of activity day to day, you've got strength training, you've got nutrition, you've got sleep, you've got stress management. For most people, it's not a question of having to overhaul everything.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not a question of having to overhaul your activity and do a gym session every day. It's not a question of having to overhaul your diet and just eat chicken and broccoli 5 times a day with a protein shake every 4 hours or whatever, getting up in the middle of the night because you need to eat every 4 hours. It's not a question of wholesale change. I think it's just trying to educate people. Okay, well, actually, if you're someone that's gaining weight because you're meant to be eating 3,000 calories a day and you're currently eating 3,300, swinging that in the other direction, teaching someone how to cut 400 calories a day out, so they're in a slight calorie deficit. It's not a question of changing everything they eat chicken and broccoli. It's just a question of maybe teaching them portion control, or if they're having a fry up for breakfast every day and then the rest of the food's kind of all right, it's saying, okay, well, this is the alternative and this is probably a healthier breakfast that fits your needs at the moment. Teaching someone that, okay, you're only having 60 grams of protein a day, and for someone your size and your activity levels, you probably need close to 140, and teaching people about these little changes they need to make. Again, in reality, someone that might be fit and active, wanting to go running every day and kind of succeeding, but having like niggly injuries, ankle tendon, Achilles tendon issues or patella tendon issues. It's not a question of, a massive wholesale change to their running. It's a question of 2 45-minute strength training sessions a week. So it's trying to emphasize that although this is kind of, in theory, a fit and active lifestyle is all encompassing stuff you do at home, how you sleep, how you eat, how you train. For most people, the changes they need to make are actually really small in each area.
Because they're small, it's sustainable. We talked about this last week with the guys, and it's part of what we do. Be a shameless plug at the Barbell Club here, but the Barbell Club, what we do is, part of a massive thing that we brought in this year is you're not just coming in for that hour session, that programmed hour session. It's contact during the week with the coaches. Mm-hmm. So we'll have a look at your nutrition, we'll have a look at your step count, your activity levels, etc., and it's making small changes. It's I think we use the example the other day I was talking to Luke about, one of our members is like, please just eat a bit of fruit, like one piece of fruit a day, and it could be as small as that to begin with, but with that you form good habits, and it's a steady increase in what in bettering yourself, in
the quality of what you're doing. So it doesn't just slowly.
Yeah, sorry. The message.
Go on.
The message doesn't have to be to people, does it? That this is going to be an instant, hard boot camp lifestyle change.
It's actually, like I say, the difference in terms of the day to day and what goes into being someone that is in good shape, fit, healthy, no health concerns, and someone who is, at risk of type 2 diabetes, massively overweight. The actual day to day, the differences over the course of a week might not be that big. Mm-hmm. The difference might be a question of an extra 4,000 steps a day. It might be a question of an extra 2 gym sessions a week, and it might be a question of 500 calories a day less. Or if you're someone that's been sedentary and been overeating for 10 years, you can be massively overweight and massively unfit. But actually, what you need to do, you don't suddenly have to start training and eating like Luke to get into better shape. And I think that's the kind of that's the best way of framing it. I think, like I say, well, the best way I've thought up so far. But people assume that to be better, they have to go from doing what they're doing to doing what the people who are in the best nick are doing. They see one and they associate the two together. They kind of get 2 + 2 = 5. Whereas actually, like I say, to move yourself forward, you've just got to do a little bit better than what you're doing now.
Staying in your lane, isn't it? Of like you're focusing on you and trying that can apply for this very much so. Also work, career, family, whatever it
life.
You can compare yourself. We've all done it, where you compare it with someone else who's on a completely different journey. So like you say, there's no point trying to, in this context, there's no point trying to be like that top level powerlifter or that top level weightlifter or top level footballer or whatever. Not achievable, not sustainable, perhaps not
not yet.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. But over time it will, potentially will be. More often than not, it will be. So it's I'm not trying to take that jump from there, there to that person. You might be here and you might have a more stressful job. You might have a couple of kids. You might have more interests than this guy potentially outside of health and fitness, other hobbies. But so it's very much like, okay, use these top bodybuilders or top fitness guys or whatever, use them for inspiration for sure and advice and everything like that, but focus on your own journey and try and make those small steps. And over consistency and time, you will put yourself in a position where you can be at that level. We've seen it at the gym. We've seen it where we're getting accountants, we're getting psychologists, we're getting doctors, whatever it is, and we can get to that kind of level. Again, I hate to use an example, but like, think of Luke again in that powerlifting perspective. Yes, there's natural talent, there's genetics to an extent, but he'll limit himself.
Very short.
The thing that's got him, to where he is in his, can we call it a sport or a sport?
Is his lack of height.
In his hobby is the consistency and the biomechanics.
Yes,
the
biomechanics.
But it is consistency, and he would say, he's not been born an amazing athlete, for example. It's like it's hard work and consistency has got him there. If we're looking at top level sports stars, it's it's a mix of both, isn't it? Look at Ronaldo's, unbelievable work ethic and consistency over a long period of time, alongside, if you're good, alongside amazing genetics. I don't want to get too into sport and things, but yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry,
exactly that. No, like I I couldn't have said it better myself. But again, I think it just it kind of speaks to this idea that what can be achieved over the course of a year, and it really makes you think back to that again. Like I said, Luke's probably one example, but like you said, there's been countless examples of people that have kind of come through the doors at MSC. And it is hard to quantify with a lot of people. You just you almost, if it's someone that you kind of see in passing or you don't necessarily coach directly, it's kind of, you kind of see someone for the first time, say hello, and you meet them for the first time when they're a new member, and you kind of, in the blink of an eye, it's 6 months and they just look and move completely differently. And it's awesome to see. And I think the people where you really see that sudden, or what feels like a really sudden change, are probably actually the people who, you only see them in the gym a couple of times a week in passing, depending on when they train and when we're in there working. There's some people that I might only see once a week, or I might never see, or I might see 1 week and then not see him for another month. And all of a sudden, I'm kind of in the staff room and I'm talking to, obviously when we're open, I'm in the staff room talking to yourself or Sonia or Ben or Luke or whatnot, and said, oh, so-and-so, like, what happened to them? I haven't seen them in 6 months, and look at, they've really changed. But I think those are the people who I would assume, we see them a couple of times a week, but they're the people who outside of the gym are probably taking stock of their steps, taking stock of their food, taking stock of their sleep, taking stock of their health, and they're kind of walking the walk, as we say.
A great example of that, and I hope she doesn't mind me using a name and using it as an example, but is Maz, who I train, who's in the last, since pretty much lockdown back in March last year, has lost 30 kilos. A lot of weight, and a big part of that is a change in mentality, somewhat into, and that's not dropped off like that. That's taken the best part of the year to get there. But because I see her a couple of times a week, I was kind of noticing, but like it would be Sonia, I think, who was, and yourself, I think, who were like, fucking hell, like how much has Maz lost?
Yeah.
And it's consistency over time. And then with that as well, a big part of that was we had a bit of a sort of heart-to-heart chat, and it was like, we've, it has become quite pally with the client sometimes. And
yeah, of course. Yeah.
it can just be a bit relaxed. And it was like back to, right, okay, you're in twice a week. I mean, she was in once a week for a long time, but you're in twice a week now. In these sessions, we are building strength. She's had injury issues, which are unsurprisingly clearing up now that she's losing weight. She's an excellent athlete, by the way, Maz, as well, a GB American footballer. But doing 2 strength sessions a week, we are focusing on getting strong. We're focusing on getting strong. I'm not going to take you and do a Metcon with you, where we might burn 500 calories or 700 calories in a session. What we're going to do is we're going to build your strength and robustness up enough so that you can, in between your gym sessions, do X, Y, and Z. So it's going to be, tracking steps, and then we're going to hit X amount of steps. It's going to be, she's bought a rower for home. So you're going to row X amount of distance on this day, X amount of distance on that day. Every Friday, you're going to text me your step count, your rowing distance, and you're going to give me a nutritional update. I'm not asking for macros. I'm not asking for anything like that. It's just very basic things that I'm asking for. But again, I guess the reason I'm using this story is, a little bit to go back towards the advantages of strength training alongside consistent low to medium level activity during the week. And also, I guess, slow,
just lifestyle changes and
small lifestyle changes. It was, it's literally a case of, right, we're hitting these 2 sessions a week. There's only so many calories I can burn in those 2 sessions. I'm not going to mech on you. I'm not going to get you on the rower for an hour. We're going to get you strong so you absorb those forces day to day, week to week. And you're going to, for the first 2 weeks, I don't care how many steps you do. You're going to track it. That's all we want you to do. You can move as little or as much as you want. Just track it. So we track it. And then we get an idea of where she's at now. Where is she at now? And then we work from there. And that, I think is just a good example of everything we've talked about, really.
And it shows you the kind of framework that you can kind of work within, and the things that you can put in place to really make proper change. And it kind of, if you do the maths on it, like I think we both agree, like a healthier, sustainable, if someone is in the market for losing weight, a healthy and a sustainable kind of rate of weight loss might be 1 or 2 pounds a week for most people, depending on like where they're starting. Depending if someone wants to go from 10% body fat down to 6% body fat, it's obviously going to be a little bit slower. But for someone that just wants to get in shape, 1 to 2 pounds a week of weight loss is probably sustainable to start off with, is probably achievable to start off with. So again, like if you start thinking of this idea of like a 4 or an 8 week blitz, the amount that you can do in that time is kind of negligible if you're talking, in the realms of someone wanting to lose 20, 30, 40 pounds. But what you can do over the course of a year, what you can do over the course of what we could have done over the course of 9 months up to now, the lockdown, or, we're in January now, this is where the health kick starts. It could almost be a good thing, I suppose, over the next year. If people are now in January, they're on their health kick. They're on their health kick now. They're kind of, I think, doubly this year, people are really kind of looking to health and fitness because they're realizing the impact that body composition and fitness has if they do get COVID. People are realizing that, some of the biggest comorbidities that hospitals are seeing, the NHS are seeing for COVID, are people being obese, people with type 2 diabetes, and people who are, objectively speaking, fit and healthy, versus those people that aren't. So I think this year,
sorry, go on.
I was going to say this year, I think the health kick's going to be kind of even, more sustained. I'd like to think probably even more obvious for a lot of people, but in the same time, people aren't going to be able to go to the gym 1st of January, sign up to a new gym, do every class they can possibly do, be in every day before work because gyms are closed. So I'd like to think, and hopefully we might get back in the gym in March and find out that everyone's health kick has been, because I've been at home and cooking all my food and not going out to eat and going out and piss at the weekends. I've learned to cook more food and I've learned how to track it more accurately. I'm tracking all my food. I know how many calories I'm eating in a day. My health kick has consisted of, I'm sleeping better because I'm not going out, I'm not hungover, I'm not going into work on a Monday morning with a stinking hangover, I'm not having to commute anymore. So it might actually be hopefully one tiny shred of a silver line that we might have is that, like I say, people are going to be getting into their health kick by looking at lifestyle factors, because there's so much more that we can control at the moment, I suppose. And as soon as people are put into lockdown and they're told they can't go outside apart from exercise once a day, people are making sure they're going out and at least walking and exercising once a day.
Yeah.
Which is probably to begin with to get people into this kind of lifestyle change and to potentially look at the fitness over the next 12 months is probably the best way to start. If people are looking to get in shape and spend a year getting in shape and they can't go to the gym for the first 3 months, it's probably better for them in the long run. And then by the time March rolls around, we hopefully, touch wood, we've got hundreds of people that are at the point where they're ready to come to Barbell Club twice a week, to really invest and build in a good quality strength training program to add that extra layer of consistency into their lifestyle, and not just a big crowd of people that come in and say, right, I've got 4 weeks to get back to the weight I was in October before the Christmas silly season started.
Yeah, 100%, mate. I think that's, I really hope there's going to be that nationwide, improvement with people, and that realization of move. We're doing it as well, where I'm not playing rugby, Susanna's working from home. It's a conscious effort now of shit, we've got to get out and go for a walk, alongside some some strength training bits. But I really hope that carries through, mate. And like you say, there might be that one silver lining from what is clearly an awful situation and a terrible, it's been a very hard time for everybody. But hopefully there's something that comes out of this where people are more aware of their health and the fitness. You've only got to see the statistics are there, and it's factual. It's not opinion. The higher the BMI, the more trouble we're in. The underlying health issues, the more trouble we're in when it comes to the coronavirus, and with any disease. We could have predicted this right at the start. You look at anyone with underlying health issues, they're always going to be more susceptible to disease and viruses. And this, hopefully, if we can get something out of it, is highlighting to people the importance of health, movement, longevity, in relation to combating, these illnesses and these viruses, because it's clear, the statistics are clear. So let's hope that people take that on board. And again, it's not necessarily trying to get from here to here, but it's making those subtle improvements, and living a better, a healthier lifestyle. We're not saying live like monks. That's not what it's about. Me and you enjoy a glass or two, to say the least. But it's making those steady changes to better yourself, and things that are sustainable for you. And hopefully, as you say, this that's something we can get out of all of this. Boom.
Boom.
Can we leave that there, mate?
Mic drop. I think that's as good a place to leave that.
I've got to get my steps in.
I've got to get outside. Get some state-sanctioned exercise.
Guys, thank you very much. That looking at the time there, that was a long podcast, but hopefully a very informative one for you. and really hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed the podcast in general. Thank you very much to Max for joining us. You might get another invite, mate.
Thanks for having me, mate. Hopefully, I won't hold my breath.
Yeah. We don't want to overuse you. That's all. It's like when we pluck you out of the air every now and again. It's special, isn't it? It's special. So people.
This is true. I'll take that.
Jump in.
Take that. So, you dug yourself out there. You dug yourself out of the hole.
Keep yourself rare and unavailable, and like you say, people will appreciate you more.
Hopefully, we'll see how many views this gets. We'll make a judgment call in a week.
It'll be one. It'll be me reviewing it. Yeah. Mate, it's gonna be a tough edit actually with all the little Wi-Fi issues we have. But never mind.
It'll keep you busy for a week.
I forgot I'm still recording there. Thank you very much, guys, for tuning in, and we'll be back soon. Have a great day. Cheers, Max, and thank you everyone.
Nice one. Thanks, Mark. Cheers, mate.
Decent.